The SNES Classic is a very popular topic right now, so I thought now would be a perfect time to do an episode of Hardware Pushers. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome, make sure you subscribe, but Hardware Pushers is basically a series where I take a look at one system and I pick the games that I feel really push the hardware to its limits. Now, two things worth noting before we get into this episode. As always, I'm only covering North American games. There will eventually be a PAL and Japanese-centric episode of this series, but that's a little bit down the road. And two, this is just my personal opinion on games that I feel really push the hardware. Your list may be different, so let me know some games I might have missed in the comment section down below. Now sit back, relax, and let's take a look at the Super Nintendo games that I feel really push the hardware.
The first game on my list is Castlevania Draculax. Now, this was a late release for the Super Nintendo from Konami and was the second Castlevania game on the system, the first being Super Castlevania 4. Now, Super Castlevania 4 was heralded as an amazing game, and when this game came out, it didn't quite get that critical acclaim that Super Castlevania 4 got. It was more of a step back to the more traditional NES style games, and there's actually a better version of this game on the PC Engine CD. Castlevania Rondo of Blood was released, and this is sort of a dumbed down port of that game. The graphics look good, the backgrounds look nice, and the animation is very smooth, but that's not why this game is on the list for its graphical capabilities. It's actually on here for its audio. It has some amazing sound effects, but what really sets this game apart from other Super Nintendo titles and 16-bit titles in general is the fact that it has CD quality music. Listen to some of this music and get a feel for it, and listen to just how rich and great it really sounds. In terms of clarity and composition, this game is pretty much second to none in terms of audio quality on the Super Nintendo. I could think of one other game that I would say has almost as good audio, and that's actually in my list, but Castlevania Draculax, amazing CD quality audio. During the 16-bit era, everyone was trying to go fast. Speed was the name of the game, and that's what Sega pretty much banked its marketing on with blast processing and Sonic the Hedgehog. But there are actually some Super Nintendo games that are arguably faster than anything else on the Genesis, and one of those games is F-Zero. F-Zero was a futuristic racer released by Nintendo very early into the Super Nintendo's life cycle, and you could definitely see why this game is on the list. The game is blistering fast. Like, some of the later stages, it's hard to control how fast you're going with your vehicle because it's just so fast and there's so many turns. But the game uses excellent scaling with the Mode 7 graphics, bright colors and visuals, good draw distance, the way the course turns when you turn. It's just a real technical marvel, and it's amazing that this game came out so early in the Super Nintendo's life cycle. I would have almost liked to have seen a sequel once Nintendo, really got working on the system. But F-Zero is truly an amazing game and truly a hardware pusher on the Super Nintendo. So there's a ton of RPGs you could choose from in terms of pushing the Super Nintendo hardware on the Super Nintendo. But I think the one that has the complete package is definitely Secret of Mana, or Mana, however you want to say it. And the reason is because of the fact that everything happens in real time. This is more of a action-adventure RPG than a turn-based RPG. You see, the game has very colorful, large sprites, a lot of stuff going on screen, and really, this sort of plays into the Castlevania Draculax thing. I think this game has some amazing audio in it as well. This and Castlevania Draculax have the two best audio clarities on the Super Nintendo, and it's just amazing that more companies didn't really put an emphasis on audio in their games. But Secret of Mana, definitely a hardware pusher and a super fun game to boot, especially if you have a friend to play it with. Animation was very important during the 16-bit era, And arguably, the game with the best animation and graphics was Donkey Kong Country. They really used some interesting techniques to get this graphical style. Rare really knew what they were doing with this, and the result is just a very fluid animation style that's almost reminiscent of a cartoon. You know, you have these big sprites that look, you know, almost like a 32-bit game, and that was really impressive on the 16-bit Super Nintendo. You know, people were starting to look forward to the PlayStation and the offerings that were coming out on this, but then came along Donkey Kong Country that is arguably one of the best looking 2D platformers of all time, especially when you're talking about the time frame it was released in. Just a real technical marvel, a great soundtrack as well, lots of variety, and just a truly eye-pleasing game on the Super Nintendo. I can guarantee you no other list will ever include this game, because it's not a good game. Roadrunner's Death Valley Rally is on this list strictly because of what you see right now. Speed. Sonic the Hedgehog, eat your heart out. This game is fast to the point of where it's like nearly impossible to control it. It is not a good game by any stretch of the imagination. It's okay, it's serviceable, the graphics are fine, but how fast the Roadrunner moves is just mind-blowing, and in my opinion, it's the fastest 16-bit game there is. Once Roadrunner gets up to speed, it's so hard to control him, but it's still cool to see. You know, this isn't about the best games, this is about games that push hardware, and I think Roadrunner's Death Valley Rally is one of those games. Another interesting game is Jim Power: The Lost Dimension in 3D. Obviously, 2D graphics were the prominent feature of 16-bit games, but Jim Power: The Lost Dimension in 3D used a really interesting sort of scaling mechanism for the background where everything sort of rotated. It almost felt like you were in a circle because it's rotating on a 3D plane. It's a standard action platformer. It's pretty fun. One thing though, the backgrounds can be a little bit nauseating at times because of the amount of movement, but still, it's an interesting technical achievement on the Super Nintendo. Not a terrible game, and it's a pretty cheap game, so I give Jim Power props just for the interesting scaling background. Another fast game that Sonic probably couldn't touch is Unitracers. Now, if you've ever watched a Super Nintendo hidden gem video, Unitracers is probably on there. It is a very fast and fun racing game, has really good two-player modes, but obviously it's on this list because it is damn fast. Look at how fast this game is. Like, it's crazy, and the good thing, unlike Roadrunner's Death Valley Rally, is this game controls well. This game is very playable and very enjoyable. It also has a really good soundtrack as well. Not many people seem to mention the soundtrack, but the instruments sound like actual instruments and not just synthesized instruments. So Unitracers is a really fun game. It's a really good game, and the speed and the audio really make it stand out in terms of games that really push the Super Nintendo to its limits. So you can't talk hardware pushers without talking about the Super FX chip, which helped pretty much put 3D games on the Super Nintendo. And Star Fox may not have aged all that well, but you have to give it props. I mean, it has real-time polygons on a 16-bit system. That is insanity when you think about it. Just the fact that this game was even possible is just a technical marvel and a technical masterpiece. And, you know, the frame rate isn't all that great, but it's still a very fun game. It's still a very playable game. And the fact that the Super FX chip allowed for this crazy 3D polygons on a 16-bit platform definitely makes it worthy of a spot on hardware pushers. Another Super FX enabled game is Doom. Doom was a very popular first-person shooter, you know, pretty much the grandfather of the genre. Well, you could say Wolfenstein, but Doom was the one that I feel really popularized it. And the Super Nintendo got a version of Doom. Now, this is not a great version of Doom, but it's pretty solid. And the fact that it's on a 16-bit system, once again, is just pure insanity. There's no reason this game should exist on a Super Nintendo, because technically speaking, it probably shouldn't be able to run, yet here it is. And surprisingly, surprisingly, the audio in this game is better than the 32X version, which, you know, was a 32-bit system, although it did use Genesis audio out, but it's still impressive. It's definitely a technical feat, and the fact that Doom was even able to be put onto the Super Nintendo is amazing in the first place, and it's pretty playable. You know, the screen size is small, pretty much a postage stamp, but it's Doom, and at the end of the day, it's amazing that this is even on the Super Nintendo. And the final game is yet another game that has no business being on the Super Nintendo, but here it is, and honestly, I think it's very underrated, and that is Street Fighter Alpha 2. Now, this game was an arcade hit, and once again, it has no business being on the Super Nintendo. This is a 16-bit platform, yet the game is very playable. Yes, there's frames of animation missing. Yes, the audio isn't as good as, you know, the Sega Saturn or the arcade version, but still, this is a very competent port of a big arcade fighter that has no business being on the Super Nintendo. The animation, what's here, I think looks very good. The colors are very crisp and vibrant. You know, there's little background effects as well. Definitely not as many as the arcade or the 32-bit counterparts, but the game has no business being on the Super Nintendo. It actually has load times on it because of the compression of the game. It needed to load before round. So Street Fighter Alpha 2, definitely a hardware pusher. Has no business being on the platform, but I'm glad it's on there.
Alright, and that's going to do it for this episode of Hardware Pushers, the Super Nintendo. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I tried to pick some unique games for this list, maybe games that people don't really tend to think about, because there's a lot of interesting games on the Super Nintendo. Like I said, if you have some games that you felt that I might have missed, or you felt would be a better pick for this list, make sure you let me know in the comments section down below. And as always, thank you for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit that like button, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later.
RGT 85, RGT 85. RGT 85.